Like she said, my name is Doug Stewart. I've been working with homelessness for about 20 years now, almost 20 years. And within homelessness, there's all kinds of subpopulations: trafficking, elderly, youth, transitional age youth, and all of that. So let me explain how I got to California, or how I got to Arizona, excuse me. I had started a nonprofit, well, I got elected to city council. That was my first mistake. Got elected, and I did 3 terms in a town of Pacheco City Council. And throughout those 3 terms, the biggest complaint was the homeless. They're doing this, they're sleeping here, they're leaving trash, you know, all of the complaints that go with homelessness. So what I did is I went around, out, being the good city councilman that I am, I went out and I talked to the providers that were in the area and talked to the police and the commander that was running our town at the time. And what I found out is that there was literally nothing for the homeless after about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I decided to step down as a city councilman and go to work for police departments and started a nonprofit, and that took off to the point to where I think in 2003 or 4, or 5 or 6, President Bush gave me an award for dealing with homeless issues in the state of California. I started to innovate and work off of what the county and the state had already done, and it got to the point where I had contracts with 19 cities, about 11 police departments, the state, and it just got to be too much for me. The media hounded me every day. I couldn't even go down and eat with my wife. I'd like to have dinner with my wife sometimes, a lot. And they would hound me, and it just got to the point where I felt like I was carrying the load of about 6,000 homeless people a night on my shoulders. And I felt like that there was, besides the guys that I had working for me, there was just little help for me helping them. And so me and my wife sat down and talked, and we decided that it was time for me to hang it up. And so I announced in January that I was going to retire, and the job offers started to come in from cities and police departments, lucrative job offers. And I decided that it just wasn't enough to keep me there. And so I had always wanted to live in northern Arizona, and so me and my wife bought our first house in Payson last year. And we've been here a year. About 3 months into living there, me having my new Netflix job, where I laid on the couch and watched Netflix all the time. The county and the state and the mayor of the town that I live in started reaching out to me and asking me for help, and started asking me to handle all the issues in Gila County. I actually just signed a contract with Gila County a couple days ago to put together their full program for Gila County now. In Gila County, there's nothing. When we have a homeless person or we have a trafficked person, there's nothing there for them. We either have to drive them to Coconino or we have to bring them down to Maricopa. There's absolutely nothing. They aren't on the same plan as Maricopa and Coconino. Arizona has switched to what California and the rest of the nation is doing. It's called a housing first approach. And that's the approach that I prefer. That's my philosophy. I think it's better to house people and then help them, as opposed to help them on the streets and then try to house them. There's a story about a guy named $1 Million Bob, they called him. He was in Sacramento. And the state of California and the county of Sacramento spent $1.5 million trying to help Bob on the streets with hospitals, police services, all of those things, when they probably could have housed him 20 times over his life for $1.5 million. Gave him all the health care he needed and everything. Bob ended up passing away, but it taught the state a huge lesson. And now today, HUD mandates that every state use a housing first process, which consists of coordinated assessment, harm reduction. And when I say harm reduction, shelters aren't supposed to turn away people that show up intoxicated or show up with large mental health issues. They're supposed to stabilize and do their thing. Shelters today are going to become wet shelters. You're going to start seeing more wet shelters throughout the state and throughout the United States. Because we would rather have somebody show up to the shelter drunk, and where there's staff there that's trained to take care of them and trained to put them to bed and feed them and shower them, rather than them go back out to their camp and die a lonely death. And so those are some of the things that the state has to transition to. My philosophy with helping homeless You treat a man as he is, he's going to stay that way. You treat a man as to what he can become, he'll become that. So I always try to make that connection before I even offer services. I might meet a person 4 or 5, 7, 10 times before I even offer them anything. And it's about hearing their story. It's about building that relationship with them. I was out with a lady last night. She was at a local hospital, and the hospital called me to come down and help her. And she had been trafficked and had all these mental health issues and had, just mental health and everything else that the whole world was against her, to her. And on the way to the hospital, I'm thinking about, she's in a hospital, she's on suicide watch, she's got all these things going on. What can we do to make this lady smile? What do hospitals have that can make people smile? And the answer is they have popsicles and ice cream. And so right when I got there, I asked the nurse for ice cream. We went in with ice cream and she smiled, and it opened up a dialogue for us to where we could de-escalate her and talk to her. It's always about problem solving with homeless people. With homeless people, their problem is the biggest problem in the whole world. And every homeless person's issues are, to them, it's the biggest problem in the whole world. And to them it is. But to us as providers, sometimes we get complacent and we start to, oh, I've seen this 8,000 times, and we need to treat it like it's the most important problem, because it is their most important problem. And the way that I do that is I listen. That's it. If I'm talking more than they are, I tell the guys that work for me, if you're talking more than they are, you're not listening. You're not doing your job. And that's what the job is about, is listening, being flexible. Always have to be flexible. One day it could be human trafficking, and then the next day or the next hour you're dealing with a mom with 5 kids, and you have to learn how to turn that off and on. Some clients are violent and they're flipping out, and you have to learn to turn it off for the mom and 5 kids 15 minutes later. It's a constant flexibility thing. You have to adapt to what their problems are. We're not there to tell them what they need to do. I don't want to tell nobody what they need to do. Most of them are adults. What we want to do is help them achieve their goals. If somebody feels like it's best that they go to Texas and live with their grandma, then we want to help them achieve that goal, because that's what they think is best for them. We don't want to tell them what's best for them. We don't want to be accusatory. Hey, you have mental health. We want to ask them in ways that are data collecting ways. We want to ask them, has anybody ever told you had mental health? Do you feel like you have mental health? Not, hey, I ran your name and you have mental health issues. That's accusatory. It shuts them off right away. They're done. The battle's lost. It's over before it even began. When somebody's intoxicated, the first thing you want to do is tell them, in my mind, hey, you need to stop drinking. This is part of your problem. But in reality, that's the very last thing you want to do. It shuts them down right away, because that's all they know. That's all that they're, when they're going through a hard time on the street and they have all these life issues going on, that's how they know how to medicate themselves. That's how they know how to take care of it, to numb themselves. So the last thing you want to do is say, hey, you need to stop drinking. Because I'll tell you, if I was on the street, I'd drink a bottle of vodka every day, no doubt about it. There's no way I'd want to live out in that heat. I'd be drunk every minute of the day. And so I get it. I feel for them. I want to help them achieve what they want to achieve. I don't want to be accusatory. I don't want to tell them what they need to do. I don't want to tell them how to do it. I want them to feel like they can come to me, and that I'm going to help them achieve what they want to achieve in a positive way. And I felt like in California, when I left California, that was part of the problem, that we weren't doing that more. I got too big for my own good, and it started to be, I'm policing the homeless and I'm not helping the homeless. Because 911 would send me out, and it just became a huge issue. And now that I came back to Arizona and took a break for a few months, and I actually ended up sitting 6 months with my wife and kids, and I got to relearn my kids. I hadn't seen my kids. I have an 8-year-old that I don't even think I talked to an hour a week up until last year. So it was one of those things that helped me become humble again, and realize that helping people, it's not just a job. If you don't make that connection with them, you can only hand out so many pairs of socks. You can only hand out so many bottles of water. At some point, there has to be a higher level of services. My goal is to end people's homelessness, end homelessness in general. I want to end it. We're the most powerful nation in the world, yet we have 38,000 people in Maricopa County last year applied for homeless services. That's a small town. Literally, that's a small town. It's sad. It's sad. In a lot of countries, it's against the law to be homeless. They give you a house. They give you an apartment. And here, we let our veterans, we let our elderly sleep in cars on the streets. It's sad. It's really sad. So one of the things I'm trying to do, let's talk about the future. So one of the things, like I said, I signed a contract with Gila County this week. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We'll find out here in a couple of months. So, like I said, they have no services there. Little to none. And the services they do have are good people doing good things with no training. And those are the things we want to train. We want to get those good people doing good things trained to do it right. We want them to do it right. If we don't do things right, we end up damaging people for in the future when there's a future opportunity to help somebody. Because now we've damaged them back here. We want to be able to help them on the top end. So the state has a mandate. By January 28th, they have to have continuum of care set up in just about every county in Arizona. And the way continuum of cares work is basically it's a board. Your county has a board. This county has a board. It has the biggest board in the state, as a matter of fact. And it basically sets the priorities for what the homeless, human trafficking, all the things that go with homelessness, sets the priorities for what the county wants to do and how the providers are going to go about that. And everybody has to be on the same page. Otherwise, they'll lose their $3.6 million that they get for homeless services. It'll be gone. And then they'll really be in bad shape. So everybody has to be on the same page. It's one of those things where HUD wants everybody to work together. If I go to Tumbleweed and then I go to CAS should know what Tumbleweed did. They should be able to look in a system and see what they did. And that way, we're not duplicating services, we're not doing things over again. Nothing, one of my pet peeves is making people do things over. If somebody has a mental health issue and we make them go do all of these tests and assessments, they're lost after like the third assessment. They're done. They don't want to do it anymore. They don't want to stand in line. They're just done. So if we can get it done the first time and get it done right, then it's over with for them, and they're moving on. So this is my task in Gila County, to bring all of the people together, the churches, law enforcement, the county, elected officials, and bring those together and build that continuum of care for that county. Because believe it or not, Gila County is the poorest county in the state by far. It only has about 55,000 people in it. And I think 57% of those people live below the poverty line. And the only reason it's that low is because we have a lot of summer visitors that come up that have higher incomes that kind of skew the numbers a little bit. It's the poorest county in the state and does not receive $1 for poverty issues from our state or the government. Not $1. It's sad. To me, that's sad. So that's my task. And I'm going to get it done one way or another. Whether people love me or they hate me, I'm going to get it done. You know, and that's just how it goes. So, we have to. We have to do that. You know, people living below the poverty line or on the streets, they deserve those services. They deserve them. You know, just like I deserve health care. I don't live at the poverty line, but I deserve health care. I deserve things. They deserve those services. They deserve to be treated like human beings. They deserve to be treated like adults. They deserve to have a place to live. Everybody in the world deserves a place to live. I've heard every excuse why people are homeless. I'm an environmentalist. I like to travel. I like to be outside. I like looking at I've heard it all. But you know what? At the end of the day, people also like to have locked doors and a shower and a warm bed to sleep in. And I have never, ever had a homeless person turn it down. I will say that it gets worse for them before it gets better. When you take somebody that has lived on the streets for years, months, they lose those basic life skills. I wake up every morning and I take a shower. I read about UFC, regardless, every morning. I just have this pattern that I do. Where homeless people, they wake up and they don't have a shower to take. They don't have a newspaper to read. They don't have a cup of coffee. They have to go find those things. So when you put them in an apartment or a house, they lose those basic things. Me and my wife took in a guy that's now on my board. He's actually my boss. And he was homeless for 6-7 years. And we brought him in our home because I couldn't get him in the shelter. And the dude would walk by the shower every day. His room was between the shower and the kitchen. He would walk by it every day. And me and Bailey would look at each other like, what's going on? And he had just lost that basic ability to turn right into the bathroom and turn the knob on. He'd lost that basic want to take a shower. And being the friends that we are, and we cared about this person, we had to set him down and say, dude, it's time to take a shower. You have to do it every morning at 9 o'clock. And we had to set up a schedule for him. And we had to it's kind of like we teaching our kids to take a bath. Every night before bed, you take a bath and you brush your teeth. We had to do that for this individual. Granted, today, he's grown leaps and bounds. He's a manager of an auto center, and he goes scuba diving in Hawaii every 6 months. He's a cool dude. And, you know, sometimes that's what it takes, though. People lose those basic abilities, even to read an electric bill, you know, things like that. So sometimes when you take people straight from the streets to an apartment, it gets worse. But the end outcome is it gets better, you know. And while it's getting worse, we know where they are. We don't have to have case managers chasing them all over the state looking for them, what corner, what bridge, if they're in jail. We don't have to but we don't have to use emergency vehicles and services to get them. And it becomes more cost effective to help the person. And what I think it does is it gives them something to take pride in. After a minute, they start to realize, hey, this is my house. I have to clean it. I have to take care of it because it's mine now. No one's coming to take it from me. No one's going to do it if I don't. And they start to take pride in themselves. And then what happens is the drinking stops, the drugs stop, hopefully, and all of those things start to fall into place. But if we try to help people on the streets, where it's almost mission impossible to get sober on the streets. I love shelters that, well, I don't love them, but I like to say I love them. I love them. I love the dry shelters, the Christian shelters that, well, we're a shelter, we take everybody, and then when you get there, there's like 80 rules, and you have to be sober for so long, and you have to do all these things. You set them up for failure before they even begin. It's about taking down barriers, not building them back up. We don't want to set barriers up for people where they fail. We want to remove the barriers. Come in. Don't drink on the property, but go out to the sidewalk and drink until we can get you the help you need. We don't want to just shut them down. You know, we don't want to make them feel like, hey, I can't do all these things, so what's the point in even trying? No. Come in. You don't have to do nothing, but we want you to try. We're going to help you succeed. And to me, that's what Housing First is about, and that's the philosophy I take. And to tell you the truth, that's the philosophy Gila County's going to take. So, you know, but I appreciate you guys all being here this morning. I think Ann's done a wonderful job. I'm sorry I couldn't be here last night. I had family issues, but Ann's on my board, and I enjoy working with Ann. I don't see her much because there's 100 miles to separate us, but, you know, we talk all the time, and I can't wait for what the future brings here in Arizona for me and my family. And thank you guys. Thank you guys so much.